Well, the world is on a verge of a regional war, and Kamala Harris is nowhere to be found in terms of interviews. We're now on. We've got to update our little calendar here. Day 23 of Kamala Harris answering 0 questions and our president not being alive anymore. But news is breaking all the time, which is why Daily Wire Plus members have the best. And you should become one. They have unlimited on-demand access to our uncensored, ad-free daily shows, real-time breaking news, investigative journalism. Don't be left in the dark. Join the fight right now at dailywire.com/subscribe. Well, if you're feeling outraged lately, you're not alone. It is outrageous the way that we, the American people, are being absolutely gaslit by the President of the United States, his pathetic Vice President of the United States, and the even more pathetic legacy media. It is a triumvirate of corruption. It is a triumvirate of circular sycophancy. It's truly horrifying. And the reason it's truly horrifying is imagine a situation in which the world is on the verge of World War III, possibly in the Middle East. It was reported by Lebanese media today that Hezbollah, a major terrorist group operating out of Lebanon, it is effectively an Iranian front group, is preparing a massive assault on the Israelis. In fact, Hezbollah is preparing for that, and we know this because they've apparently evacuated their Beirut headquarters, fearing an Israeli counter-assault, a counter-strike on the Hezbollah Beirut headquarters. We know that the United States is mobilizing serious resources into the Eastern Mediterranean. They're moving aircraft carriers into the Mediterranean at the behest of the President of the United States, presumably, or Lloyd Austin, the Secretary of Defense. All this is happening, and the President of the United States is asleep on a beach in Delaware. He does nothing for a living. And this raises a fairly serious question. Why is there a complete vacuum at the top of the United States government? See, here's the thing. You could maintain that Joe Biden was capable of doing the job before that first debate. But then the first debate happened, and even Democrats and even the media said he is not capable of being the Democrat nominee. He needs to go. He's senile. He's falling apart. And then they got rid of him. They took him out back, like Old Yeller, and then he was gone. But he's still the President of the United States, and that is the astonishing dishonesty of these people. Truly dishonest and gross to the American people. See, when you elect a president, you deserve to have a president. Joe Biden didn't vote for him, wouldn't vote for him. He is my president because he is the President of the United States today, which means that he has all of the executive powers entrusted to him by the Constitution of the United States and the American people in the 2020 election. And he is gone. He is not there. The world is on fire and he is not there. Now, Kamala Harris knows that he's not there. The entire cabinet knows he's not there. The entire media know he's not there. The entire American people know he's not there. In fact, the entire world knows that Joe Biden is not there. And so they are moving aggressively. The Iranians are moving aggressively. And meanwhile, you got Jake Sullivan, I guess, with the nuclear codes or something, trying to tell the Iranians just how hard they can hit the Israelis without prompting some sort of serious Israeli response. You have the Ukrainians pushing into Russia with Joe Biden asleep at the switch down in Delaware, somewhere at a beach, with Jill sitting and holding his hand as he moves on off into slumberland. I mean, here's actual video of Joe Biden at the beach this weekend. This is your President of the United States. Look at him. He is not conscious. He is literally asleep on a beach in Delaware, out cold, old man, gone, on a beach. That is your President of the United States. And you know what? Do you understand the tremendous disrespect to the American people of this man? It was disrespectful that he was running again. But it's even more disrespectful, I got to tell you, that they have already acknowledged that he has shuffled off the moral coil and they are leaving him in as President of the United States. And the only reason Kamala Harris is leaving him in, rather than, say, 25th Amendmenting him or pushing him to drop out of the presidency, is because he won't leave. He believes he should get the gold watch and he should get the DNC Night One tribute. And she's perfectly willing to keep him in place. Why is Kamala willing to keep him in place? Wouldn't it be better for her if she were the acting president of the United States now running for re-election? The answer is she doesn't want the responsibility. She doesn't want the accountability. She does not want to be linked with Joe Biden's record. So right now, Democrats, in their disgusting search for power, their malign search for power, no matter what, have basically deemed it necessary to keep a dead person in the Oval Office right now as the world burns. They are doing that because, number one, he's an ego monster and he needs that. He needs that. He says, if you're not going to give me the nomination, I'm going to stay here and you can't make me go. So he's an ego monster, obviously. It took Nancy Pelosi almost literally shoving him off a cliff to get him out of the nomination. But there's something else happening here, which is that the Democrats understand that if Kamala Harris is saddled with Joe Biden's record, she loses. So what are they doing? They're leaving the dead body in place. So you will blame the dead body for all the bad policy. And meanwhile, Kamala Harris will be over here wearing Team USA jackets and dancing and pretending joy, campaigning joy and reading off teleprompters. Her entire campaign so far, again, day 23, no positions, none. Every position she currently has is a position she did not have about 6 weeks ago, and many of them are adopted from the Trump campaign. She's been asked 0 questions. She's been held accountable for 0 of Joe Biden's actions, and the media are falling right into place like the Praetorian Guard that they are, the bootlickers that they are. The Democrat media human centipede continues to grow. It is unbelievable. They have not asked her a single question, nor will they. In fact, she goes out there and she talks about how she's going to lower inflation, and no one will ask her, well, aren't you the VP now? Weren't you the deciding vote on the Inflation Reduction Act? She'll go out there and claim that she's tough on immigration. They won't ask her. In fact, they will go out of their way to protect her and pretend that she is actually not the border czar and had nothing to do with Joe Biden's policy. That is why they are keeping this dead old man there. It's why. Listen, they're keeping Joe Biden in office so that Kamala does not actually have to be the person who takes responsibility for the policy. The dead body is the elephant in the room. I mean, there's another elephant in the room, and that is big tech's war on free speech. It's not just conservative voices big tech is after. It's anyone who dares to think in heterodox fashion. So why are we handing our personal data to these digital overlords on a silver platter? I'll tell you what I do to fight back. I use ExpressVPN. If you value your privacy and freedom of thought, you should as well. Here's the deal. Every time you go online, big tech is watching. They track your searches, your clicks, even the videos you watch. It's like having Big Brother breathing down your neck 24/7. With ExpressVPN, you can protect yourself. When you use ExpressVPN, your internet connection gets rerouted through their secure servers. That means big tech cannot see your IP address. It's like putting an invisibility cloak over your online activity. They can't track you. They can't profile you. They sure as heck can't sell your data to the highest bidder. It's not just about privacy. It's about taking a stand. The best part, you don't need to be a tech wizard to use ExpressVPN. Just download that app, tap one button, and boom, you're now protected. So here would be your call to action. Stop letting big tech treat your data like it's their personal piggy bank. Take back your online freedom with the VPN I trust and use every single day. Head on over to expressvpn.com/Ben. That's expressvpn.com/Ben. Get 3 extra months for free with my exclusive link, expressvpn.com/Ben, because your data is yours, not theirs. So understand this triumvirate. Joe Biden, dead man who wants to remain in place. Kamala Harris, who is running a campaign completely free of substance or positions, specifically so she cannot be held accountable for her boss's crappy presidency, and a media that are complicit in both of those things. They were eager to get rid of Joe Biden as the nominee because they want Kamala Harris to be the president after. But because they want her to be the president after, she can't be the president now. So they will ask no serious questions about Joe Biden as to his actual ability to carry out the job this moment. He won't be forced to answer that question. He'll simply be able to get away with it. And meanwhile, they'll focus in on the magic that is Kamala Harris without ever asking her a single question. Like, for example, if your boss is not capable of being president for the next 4 years, what makes you think he is capable of being president now? And how much are you involved in the policy making at the White House? They don't want those questions answered because those answers might mean that she wouldn't be president. So Joe Biden, by the way, has now done more full-scale interviews as the non-nominee than Kamala Harris has as the nominee. Over the weekend, Joe Biden sat down and he actually did a televised interview, which is more than Kamala Harris has done. She's too busy wandering around the fruited plains, getting off of her Air Force Two and hobnobbing with little girls before ignoring the media, putting on her sunglasses and taking off her sunglasses like David Caruso from CSI Miami or something. And we're supposed to pretend that that amounts to a candidacy. Meanwhile, here was Joe Biden. He was sitting down with CBS News, and he was asked about people skeptical that he can't do the job. And here was his relatively unconvincing answer.
To those who have expressed skepticism about how much you'll be on the trail or about the rest of your term, raise questions about your health, what do you say to them?
All I can say is watch, that's all. Look, I had a really, really bad day in that debate because I was sick. But I have no serious problem. I was talking to Governor Shapiro, who's a friend. We have to win Pennsylvania, my original home state. He and I are putting together a campaign tour in Pennsylvania. I'm going to be campaigning in other states as well. And I'm going to do whatever Kamala thinks I can do to help most.
So then why exactly is he not the nominee? He's still making the same case. He's totally fine. But they're not making that case anymore. No one is making that case anymore except for Joe Biden. By the way, Joe Biden is still bitter about this. He says congressional Democrats forced him out of the race.
The polls we had showed that it was a neck-and-neck race. Would have been down to the wire. But what happened was a number of my Democratic colleagues in the House and Senate thought that I was going to hurt them in the races. And I was concerned if I stayed in the race, that would be the topic. You'd be interviewing me about why did Nancy Pelosi say, why did so, and I thought it'd be a real distraction.
He acknowledges that he was forced out of the race. And Democrats are now openly laughing at him that he was forced out of the race. Nancy Pelosi, who is 3 years older than Joe Biden, she says that his letter, you know, that letter that they posted online, he said that didn't sound like him. It sounded like someone wrote for him and then posted it on Twitter. I mean, she's openly acknowledging that he's not running the country. But they're fine with that. Of course they're fine with that. It means no one's answerable for his criminal presidency, a horribly, horribly run presidency. Here's Nancy Pelosi.
I didn't accept the letter as anything but a letter. I mean, there are some people who were unhappy with the letter. Let me say, some said that some people were unhappy with the letter. I'll put it in somebody else's mouth because it was I don't even know, it didn't sound like Joe Biden to me.
I mean, she's openly saying that he was basically manipulated into giving up the presidency. And apparently it's fine for him to keep the presidency. That's the part that's amazing. So Joe Biden went out there and he called Donald Trump a threat to American security. Here he was over the weekend.
Mark my words. If he wins this this election, watch what happens. It's a danger. He's a genuine danger to American security. Look, we're at an inflection point in world history. We really are. The decisions we make in the last 3-4 years and the next 3 or 4 years are going to determine what the next 6 decades look like.
He's a danger to American security. You know what's a danger to American security? Please put back up the video of Joe Biden sleeping on a beach. That's a danger to American security. That right there, that is a danger to American security. Where are the media? Where is Kamala Harris? She is the VP. It is her responsibility to make sure the president is sentient. She knows he wasn't sentient, which is why she offed him. The entire Democratic Party wants to play this ridiculous game where on the one hand, Joe Biden was incapable of being the nominee and made the most patriotic move of all in stepping aside as the nominee. But also, we need to keep his corpse in office in order so we can blame the corpse for everything going wrong and we can free Kamala to just be joy and light. And that's the entire game right now. And it is maddening. It's maddening because as an American citizen, you know what I would like? A president. Even if it's a bad president, a president responsible for the activities so that you can hold that president accountable. But what they want is a president who can't be held accountable because he's senile and a candidate who can't be held accountable because she's not the president. That is the unbelievable game they are currently playing. And right now it is working. It is working because of the complicity of the media who have not asked Kamala Harris a single question. And she knows that she can get away with it because they're not going to turn on her. Under no circumstances will you start to see editorials saying, we will not back Kamala Harris unless she answers difficult questions. At no point will you ever see a headline like that. Sure, you'll have the Washington Post write a piece saying, she really should sit down for an interview and answer some questions once in a while. And sure, you'll have some people on CNN who'll say, it's kind of weird that she's not holding a press conference. At no point will they say, it is not okay for a presidential candidate to answer zero questions, offer zero policies, take zero responsibility for her prior conduct as either senator or AG of California or vice president, and somehow just jet set right into the presidency because she's wearing stylish clothes and she's owning it, man, and she's slaying like a queen and she's brat. If the American people vote for this kind of crap, they deserve exactly what they get, frankly. I mean, you vote for this, you deserve what you get. I understand that many people are voting for Kamala because they hate Trump that much. But understand, when you vote for an empty suit who's a chameleon on every single issue, that's precisely what you're going to get, and you deserve it. The media are not asking Kamala any questions, just as they've not asked Biden any questions. Meanwhile, war is looming in the Middle East, and the Israel Defense Force is on high alert in preparation for a Hezbollah attack. Hospitals are preparing themselves to deal with mass casualties. Major airlines have already halted flights into Ben Gurion Airport in Tel Aviv. Iran's proxies are at Israel's borders. They are preparing to strike from Iran directly, by the way. The attack is inevitable. It can come in any and all forms and from 7 different fronts. Israelis have been told to prepare for at least 3 days without power or electricity. In the event of an attack, Israelis across the country could be forced to spend days or weeks in bomb shelters. Those shelters need to be equipped with basic essentials for survival, like food and water, to prepare people to live in them for long periods of time. The International Fellowship of Christians and Jews is working to equip bomb shelters with emergency food boxes for Israelis who have to remain there in case of an Iranian attack. 10,000 of these food boxes have been delivered. They're preparing to deliver thousands more. In northern Israel, which has been continually targeted by rocket fire, the fellowship has delivered firefighting equipment, protective equipment for hospitals, 2 bulletproof vehicles, much more to enhance security and protect both ordinary citizens and first responders. They're on the ground. They're working around the clock to assess and fill immediate needs. I'm looking for 500 listeners to join me by donating $100 to meet those urgent security needs today. Thanks to a generous IFCJ supporter, your gift will be matched, doubling your impact in the Holy Land. To give to IFCJ, visit benforthefellowship.org. That's one word, benforthefellowship.org. God bless and thank you. Democracy is the theory, as H.L. Mencken once suggested, that the American people get what they deserve good and hard. They deserve to make their own choices and then get what they deserve good and hard. That's the theory of democracy, and they're about to get it. You vote for an empty suit like Kamala Harris, who is, in fact, either responsible for the Biden administration's decision-making or is a complete nothing burger, and what you get is what you get. Nonetheless, Kamala Harris, according to the latest New York Times polls, is now leading in 3 of the biggest swing states, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. She's leading by 4 points in each of those states, according to the New York Times. Those margins shrink just a little bit when you include RFK. If you include RFK, she's still leading in all 3 of those states. However, the lead drops to about 2 points in Pennsylvania as opposed to 4 points. With all of that said, this new polling from the New York Times shows that 53% of Americans say that she has a clear vision for the country compared to 60% who say that Trump has a clear vision for the country. 54% say she has the temperament to be an effective president. 52% say she's honest, which is unbelievable. She's one of the biggest liars in American politics. 65% say she is intelligent, which I've yet to see any evidence of her radical intelligence, folks. Like, where is it on display? She has done nothing pyrotechnically brilliant in her entire political career other than identity politics and sleeping with Willie Brown way back when. 50% say she will bring the right kind of change. But the bottom line is, this little strategy is working. The Democrats' strategy of ignoring the American people and simply pushing her to the presidency by dint of glitzy ads dumped with tens of millions of dollars online. Apparently, she spent something like $30 million in online advertising so far, compared to like $4 million from the Trump campaign, which does raise the question. It's up to Donald Trump to win this campaign. He is running against a target-rich environment in Kamala Harris. He needs to be weaponized. He needs to be dropping hundreds of millions of dollars in ads to define his opposition. I think that, again, everybody on both sides is too online. I think there are a lot of people in the right-wing circles who are too online, and they look at Kamala Harris, and they think that because many of us in the online circles know what's wrong with Kamala Harris, that has broken through to the American people. You can tell how it has not broken through to the American people, given the fact that the entire rip on Kamala Harris, a legitimate rip on Kamala Harris for years, is that she is incoherent and speaks in coleslaw. We made fun of her for the "you fell out of a coconut tree" thing, and Democrats turned it into a positive joy meme inside of 30 seconds. That's how little the American people know about Kamala Harris. That means you have to define her. You have to. Meanwhile, she's defining herself in real time without anyone asking a serious question of her. So she's running an ad now. Again, the disrespect for the intelligence of Americans is astonishing here. She's running an ad suggesting that she is tougher on the border. I mean, talk about just a malicious lie. Tougher on the border. She has presided as vice president of the United States over the biggest migrant wave in the history of the United States, in the history of the country. She was the border czar. I know everyone wants to pretend she wasn't, and the media went out of their way to try and defend her from the realities here, but here she was saying that she is tougher on the border in this ad.
Kamala Harris has spent decades fighting violent crime. As a border state prosecutor, she took on drug cartels and jailed gang members for smuggling weapons and drugs across the border.
What
as
the
Vice
hell?
President,
That is not true. I lived in California.
Bill in decades. And as president, she will hire thousands more
As vice
border
president?
agents and crack down on fentanyl and human trafficking. Fixing the border
What
is
in the
tough.
world? I've been down to the
So is
border.
Kamala Harris.
What?
I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.
That's insanity. She's the worst vice president in the history of the United States on immigration. Bar none. Zero competitors. It just ran an entire ad on how she's tough on the border. And look at the media. The media snap into place like nobody's business. So JD Vance went after Kamala. He was on a bunch of Sunday shows. So JD Vance has now done more Sunday shows than Kamala Harris by a factor of infinity because she's done none. Okay, so he goes on with Jonathan Karl and he starts slamming Kamala as the border czar. And Jonathan Karl tries to push back and say she wasn't the border czar. The pathetic willingness of the media to act as lapdogs for the Harris campaign, it's just amazing stuff.
We have a wide open southern border because our border czar actually set a lot of open border policies. They suspended.
She's not actually. She wasn't the border czar.
Oh, that was what the media called her. She assumed the title. She had control over a lot of our border policy at a time
what was the when they were suspending.
Let me finish, John. The time they were suspending deportations, they stopped Donald Trump's Remain in Mexico policy, and they reinstituted catch and release. They basically threw open the gates of our country, and now we have a ton of fentanyl, a ton of people suffering.
But how are you going to get 10 to 15 to 20 million people
out
of the
country? Well, the first thing you have to do is to stop the bleeding, stop the open border, get Kamala Harris out of there, and actually re-implement the Remain in Mexico policy, rebuild or finish Donald Trump's border wall, and you do that and you stop the bleeding.
Okay. He is right about all of that, but look at Jonathan Karl going on defense. Look at him going on defense for Kamala. She wasn't the border czar. Okay, there's video of Jonathan Karl, like a year ago, talking about her control over border policy. They're willing to do anything for this chameleonic candidate. While Kamala is stealing Donald Trump's actual policies, that's enough to make you insane. Another thing makes you insane is when you're just not feeling healthy, when you're feeling under the weather. The best way to avoid that is balance of nature. Listen, I've got a busy schedule. I'm flying all around the country for work. I'm constantly on the go. It's an election year. That means I have to keep my health at its very best, which means I exercise, I try to get enough sleep, I eat well. Balance of nature fits right into my day-to-day. Imagine trying to eat 31 different fruits and veggies every day. Sounds miserable and time-consuming. Well, with balance of nature fruits and veggies, there's never been a more convenient dietary supplement to ensure you get a wide variety of fruits and veggies daily. Balance of Nature takes fruits and veggies, they freeze-dry them, they turn them into a powder, they put them into a capsule. You take your fruit and veggie capsules every day, and your body knows what to do with them. It's kosher, so I can put it right in the protein smoothie, which is how I'm just continuing to maintain my absolutely ripped physique. Go to balanceofnature.com, use promo code Shapiro for 35% off your first order as a preferred customer, plus get a free bottle of fiber and spice. That's balanceofnature.com, promo code Shapiro. Again, balanceofnature.com, promo code Shapiro for 35% off your first order as a preferred customer, plus get a free bottle of fiber and spice. That is balanceofnature.com, promo code Shapiro for 35% off your first order as a preferred customer and that free bottle of fiber and spice. So let's just be clear about this. She apparently has nothing to do with border policy, and so she can adopt Trump's border policy. And it's not just that. Over the weekend, she goes to Nevada and she says she's going to remove a tax on tips. Hey, that is a Donald Trump idea. He has trotted that out to great applause in places like Nevada, where there are a lot of employees who are reliant on tips. Now, we know she's lying because the reality is that when she was Attorney General of the state of California, one of the things that she and the rest of the Democrats in California tried to crack down on was independent contracting, like Uber, for example. And so they obviously wanted to tax tips because they wanted everybody paid as an employee so they could tax all that stuff. But here she is, literally just in real time, adopting Donald Trump's policies and answering zero questions about it. This is an amazing gaslighting. You thought the gaslighting about Joe Biden's health was bad. How about the gaslighting that Kamala Harris is now able to switch every single position she has ever held, all of them in real time, without any linkage to her record as vice president, senator, or AG of California. And the media go right along with it. It's outrageous. It really is.
And it is my promise to everyone here, when I am president, we will continue our fight for working families of America. Including to raise the minimum wage and eliminate taxes on tips for service and hospitality workers.
That is a Donald Trump idea. Even the media were like, well, I mean, she did get that from Donald Trump. And that was kind of weird. But has she been asked about that? Of course not. She won't answer any questions. She literally said last week, maybe she'll schedule an interview before the end of the month. Schedule an interview before the end of the month. Can we just get clear on what the calendar looks like right now? Hey, right now, here's what the calendar looks like. We are at August 12th. 1 week from today, the Democratic National Convention begins. She will do 0 interviews this week. She will not sit for a serious interview. She won't answer a serious question. She'll get all the way to the convention without answering a single question. Then she will get into the convention. Night 1 will be a celebration of Joe Biden. They'll give him his gold watch and shuffle him off to the old age home where they put him on morphine until he dies. And then the rest of the convention will be about the glories of Kamala Harris and her complete lack of any policy or talent. But she is quite brat. And there are going to be celebrities, and it'll be amazing. Billie Eilish will show up with her green hair and all that. Taylor Swift might show up. Be a lot of celebs. It'll be so magical. And then we will be at August 22nd. And she still will have answered 0 questions. And then we'll be into the following week. And we'll be close to Labor Day already. And then post-Labor Day, the voting starts. The entire game here is to delay and lie to you. That's the entire game. Joe Biden is lying to you. He is not capable of holding the presidency. Kamala Harris is lying to you. She knows Joe Biden is not capable of holding the presidency. She's letting him do it while the world burns in order to shield her own political career. And she won't answer any questions about her own actual positions in any serious way. And the media will do it because there's nothing they like better than the taste of Kamala Harris's boots. They love it, apparently. It is their favorite thing. Here's Kamala Harris on the campaign trail saying she's going to lower costs. Do you know how insane you have to be to believe that Kamala Harris is going to lower costs? She is the vice president who presided over the worst inflationary cycle in 40 years. In 40 years. This is like me campaigning on telling you that I am going to magically make bacon taste better. I don't even know what it tastes like. The hell is she talking about?
We believe in a future where we lower the cost of living for America's families so they have a chance not just to get by, but to get ahead. To get ahead. While our economy is doing well by many measures, prices for everyday things like groceries are still too high.
Are they? I wonder how they got that way. It's maddening. It's maddening. And if you're watching politics, you're a regular watcher of politics, of course it's maddening. Because for 3 weeks there, you got actual serious political coverage of a serious political issue, Joe Biden's senility. And then it went away. And now apparently what we're supposed to believe is Joe Biden is solid. Not solid enough to run, but solid enough to be president. Kamala Harris is brilliant and charismatic. Time magazine is redoing their cover. They have a brand new cover this week, Time magazine, which is the most sycophantic cover I've ever seen of any major politician outside of Barack Obama. And it is the hero shot, the black and white drawing of Kamala Harris looking out into the future, Barack Obama style, with the lower part of her picture just made up of ordinary citizens. And it says, her moment, her moment. It's enough to make anyone vomit. Again, I'm now in Exorcist territory. My head is turning 360 and I'm vomiting everywhere, given the amount of media coverage like this. Meanwhile, the one thing we know about her is that she is going to pander to her radical left. That is the thing that you know about her. You know how you know about this? Over the weekend, Kamala Harris once again demonstrated her pro-Hamas bona fides. So over the weekend, there was an allegation by Hamas that was a lie. The allegation, as usual, is they suggested that Israel had killed 100 people at a school. That was a lie. It was not true. It turns out that Israel had hit a school building that is not in session being used by Hamas as a terror hangout. As they always do, because they're always using mosques and hospitals and schools, because they know that then when Israel kills terrorists in these places, then they will lie about it, and morons and unbelievably stupid and dishonest people like Kamala Harris will immediately jump on that. So, Hamas lies about the casualties, and they come forward almost immediately, and they just lie. They say that there are 100 people who have been killed. Israel, meanwhile, says, no, there weren't 100 people killed, and actually we vetted the site, so we know exactly who we hit, and it turns out that we hit a bunch of terrorists. Okay, originally, at like 5:20 a.m., Hamas Health Ministry announced that 40 martyrs were killed. 20 minutes later, Hamas saw an opportunity to inflate the numbers and sent another message saying 100, quote-unquote, martyrs were killed. This is as reported by Hen Mazzig, who's a reporter. The first media report then came out about an hour and 20 minutes later, mirroring what Hamas was saying that the IDF killed over 100 people in a school. Then everybody spent the next multiple hours talking about how many people Israel had killed, how many civilians had been killed. Hey, Israel immediately came out and said, no, we killed at least 19 terrorists. There weren't 100 bodies there. That's just not the way this works. Kamala Harris immediately came out with a statement saying that there was too much loss of civilian life. She said, quote, far too many civilians had been killed yet again, and reiterated calls for a hostage deal and a ceasefire. Speaking at a campaign event, Harris said Israel had a right to go after Hamas, but, quote, has an important responsibility to avoid civilian casualties. So she immediately, because this is what she does, bought into the Hamas propaganda. Well, as it turns out, Hamas then revised the numbers back down to 40, and then Israel named 38 of the people in the building who were terrorists. So in other words, it is very, very plausible that 0 civilians were killed. But Kamala Harris is willing to jump on that bandwagon because we know who she's trying to please. All she cares about is pleasing the pro-Hamas crowd. Well, Kamala Harris, she has plenty of time for the pro-Hamas supporters. She's massaging them. She's making clear how much she wants to hear their opinions. But you know what I don't have time for? I don't have time for not having life insurance, because let's be real about this. You need life insurance. It is an important thing. Finding the perfect life insurance, however, can be difficult, which is why you need Policy Genius to help you get the right life insurance policy fast so you can get on with your life. As the country's leading online insurance marketplace, Policy Genius gives you peace of mind knowing if something were to happen to you, your family could cover their expenses while getting back on their feet. With Policy Genius, you can find life insurance policies starting at just $292 per year for $1 million in coverage. Some options are 100% online and let you avoid those unnecessary medical exams. Policy Genius has licensed award-winning agents and technology that make it easy to compare life insurance quotes from America's top insurers and find the lowest price. Their team of licensed experts is on hand to help you through the process. Even if you already have a life insurance policy through work, it might not offer enough protection for your family's needs. It might not follow you if you leave your job. Policy Genius works for you, not the insurance companies. That means they don't have the incentive to recommend one insurer over another. So don't put off life insurance. Make it easy with Policy Genius. Head on over to policygenius.com/Shapiro or click that link in the description. Get your free life insurance quote. See how much you could save. That's policygenius.com/Shapiro. That is the thing that she wants. She needs to keep them in the fold. And she needs to keep them in the fold because, of course, they're pressuring her from the outside. Right now, the pro-Gaza, pro-Hamas crowd, they're planning on showing up in big numbers to the DNC, and this could be the only blemish on her so far absolutely clean rollout, her shining, chrome-like rollout. According to the Washington Post, the scenes and stenches that greeted Hamza Abdul Qadar when he crossed Egypt's border into Gaza in mid-March were far worse than the devastating videos he had watched as war raged in the territory. That experience, along with 10 months of anger at the Biden administration's handling of the war, has left Abdul Qadar and many other Little Palestine residents determined to protest in large numbers outside the Democratic National Convention in Chicago on August 19th to August 22nd. Organizers say tens of thousands will show up, creating scenes of fury and dissent at a moment when Democrats will be working to project unity. And this could be the only bad things that happens to Kamala Harris in her first month as a candidate. So of course she's trying to pander to them. Of course. That is not a shock at all. And naturally, many Jewish Democrats are getting a little bit skeevish. They're getting a little bit worried about exactly how Kamala Harris is handling the pro-Hamas element in her base that she seems to consistently pander to. According to the New York Times, Jews have been a loyal Democratic constituency dating back at least to the 1930s. But after an extraordinarily challenging 10 months following the Hamas-led October 7th attack on Israel's devastating military response to Gaza, and explosion of anti-Semitism, some are warning that in corners of the Jewish community, close ties to the Democratic Party might be fraying. Well, I mean, they should. Rabbi Amiel Hirsch, who leads the Stephen Wise Free Synagogue on Manhattan's liberal Upper West Side, that's a Reform synagogue, he said, there's a kind of suspicion that was in the back of our minds, it's creeping more to the center of our minds, that maybe the failure to select, for example, Josh Shapiro had something to do with the Jewishness of Governor Shapiro. That, of course, is true. But again, we all know who Kamala Harris is. Kamala Harris is a radical. And this is what the Trump campaign should be hammering away at. The media, of course, are doing their damnedest to obscure all of this. They're trotting out dullards like Molly Jong-Fast, a true Nepo baby, to talk about how Kamala is an Obama-level orator. Yeah, we're going to do this routine.
I think it's a really good campaign, and people really like her. She's gotten to be a really gifted Obama-level orator. And, you know, she was very much underestimated by the mainstream media. And quite frankly, she has command. You hear her up there and she is confident, she is calm, and she is commanding. And for whatever reason, America is ready for her.
I will listen to the lady with the crazy hair. Probably she has a great beat on what America is ready for. But that is the entire media now. The entire media is Molly Jong-Fast and her buddies. Karl has morphed into Molly Jong-Fast. They all have. Because again, the Democratic media complex, the Democrat media human centipede continues all the time. It is so perverse. It's all perverse. And it begins at the very top with the fact they are still willing to cover for the fact a dead man is president of the United States. It's totally insane. Meanwhile, this puts the onus on Donald Trump to actually meticulously prosecute his case. Can he do it? We'll get to that in just one moment. First, remember the incredible film, What is a Woman? Well, Matt Walsh got the same group of white guys back together to ask America's next burning question, am I racist? It's coming to theaters this September. Matt went deep undercover into the cesspool of DEI insanity. Rubbing elbows with professional race hustlers and diversity con artists, some would say, he did the work. Well, now it's your turn. The date you need to remember right now, this Thursday, August 15th. That is when pre-sale tickets go on sale for Matt's movie. With your help, we're going to stick it to the woke mob, one ticket at a time. It's really important to pre-order because that's how the theaters know that they should actually show Am I Racist? So get all the details, watch the official trailer at www.amiracist.com. Well, the reality of this Democrat media complex means that Donald Trump must campaign well. There's no choice now. Donald Trump is running from behind. That is the reality of the situation, and failing to look the reality in the face means that Donald Trump would lose. Okay, right now, the Real Clear Politics polling average, for the first time in a long time, has Kamala Harris up outright over Donald Trump. The last several polls in that average show Harris up. In fact, of the last 3, 6, 9 polls, she is ahead in 7 of them. The only 2 that have Trump up are CNBC from last week and Rasmussen Reports, which typically has Trump up. So there's no question the momentum in the race has moved. In the battleground states, the Real Clear Politics polling average now has Harris up in Wisconsin and in Michigan. Trump is still up in Pennsylvania, although very, very narrowly. And it seems like momentum is moving in her direction, which means Trump has to campaign better. It's just that simple. Again, I'm a backer of Trump. I want him to win. That is why he needs to do the right thing and campaign well. And what does that mean? That means nailing her on the record. It means pointing out what she is, pointing out she's a chameleon and that she's a liar because she is. Trump is starting to make those sorts of noises. He is starting to move in the right direction. Over the weekend, he did a rally. He says, listen, Joe Biden's mental incompetence has now given way to Kamala Harris's absolute emptiness.
For nearly 4 years, Joe Biden's mental incompetence has given Harris a free rein to impose her ultra-liberal agenda on America and others with her and destroy our country. You're destroying our country.
Hey, he's right about all this, but he needs to be specific. He needs to be specific about what it is that she has done. It's not going to be enough to sort of speak the general about her because she's not well known enough. That's part of the problem in this campaign. In 2016, everybody knew Hillary. Hillary had been in the public eye in the United States for 24 years by the time we hit 2016. She had first appeared on the public scene as Bill Clinton's harridan wife in 1992. That was the public perception of her in 1992. That's not me. That was what everyone perceived her as going back 24 years. So when he ran against her and he called her crooked and unlikable, everybody was like, well, I mean. And then when Joe Biden ran in 2020, Trump rightly labeled him sleepy. But the problem was that wasn't enough to overcome the chaos of that year and all of the changed voting rules and all the rest of it. This year, Donald Trump was able to properly label Joe Biden sleepy. And everyone was like, well, yeah, I mean, the guy is senile. And it worked. But no one knows anything about Kamala, which means you have to define your opponent. It's like the first rule in politics. And Trump is usually very good at this. The problem for Trump is that he's used to speaking at 30,000 feet. And when you first define somebody, you have to be pretty specific in how you define them. People need examples. They need something to be able to grasp onto. So again, everything he's saying here is correct. I'm just not sure it's specific enough. So here he was saying she's not going to hold a press conference because she's stupid. By the way, he's not wrong. She is not an intelligent human being, which is why every time she gets off the teleprompter, she sounds like a drunken 15-year-old. It's amazing. Here's Trump.
Since becoming a presidential candidate, she has refused to do a single interview. You know why? Because she's dumb.
He is right about that. That is true. Now, is that going to win him votes? Probably not. Things can be true and not win you votes at the same exact time. The other thing that you can't do is distract yourself with ego plays and stupidity. So over the weekend, the Trump campaign accused Kamala Harris of faking crowd size. Now, Trump has a peculiar obsession with crowd size. Probably it goes back to his TV days when he rated success by ratings. Whatever the rationale, he spent some of the weekend fulminating over the Harris campaign's supposed AI crowd sizes. So he claimed on social media on Sunday that a crowd at a Michigan rally for VP Harris didn't exist and nobody was there. And he said that photos of the event were fabricated by AI. That, of course, was not true. There were, in fact, thousands of people who were gathered there. There was video of it. And Kamala HQ then tweeted out in response, this is an actual photo of a 15,000 person crowd for Harris Walz in Michigan. Trump has still not campaigned in a swing state in over a week. Low energy, right? So their idea here is that now he's low energy. So that's them trolling him. He cannot fall for the trolling. Falling for the trolling would be a large-scale mistake. Got to focus on the actual issues, especially because they are there aplenty. So Tim Walz turns out to have been a disastrous VP pick for the Democrats. Now, you're not going to be able to win by just running against Tim Walz. Tim Walz can underscore the fact that two things. This campaign is chameleonic because Tim Walz presents himself as a sort of Midwestern moderate when in reality he's basically Bernie Sanders Midwest. And two, he presents himself as a hard-charging coach/military man who is now pretty clearly engaged in a level of stolen valor. And so once again, it's sort of this chameleonic personality that both he and Kamala Harris exhibit. And that's being exposed in real time. So here was Governor Laura Kelly of Kansas suggesting he's just a Midwestern dad, just a Midwestern dad. That is not how Americans are likely to perceive Tim Walz when this is all over.
There seems to be a bet that he can speak to the heartland, that he can speak to rural America. Do you think that's overstated?
No, not at all. I mean, Tim Walz is the epitome of the Midwestern dad. You could put him at any state fair on any main street and certainly in a Friday night football game in rural Kansas, and he would fit right in.
Sure. He's just a Midwestern dad. That's it. He's just a Midwestern dad who lies about his service for like years and years and years and years. So Walz is still, it's amazing. Walz has not answered any questions. Forget about Kamala. He hasn't done any pressers. He hasn't answered a single question about this entire controversy swirling over whether he lied about where he was deployed or when he retired or what his final rank was when he did retire. He's still campaigning on his military service. So he says Trump knows nothing about service.
Trump sees the world very differently than all of us here. Each of you talk about service. Donald Trump knows nothing about service. It's pretty hard to provide service to others when you're too busy looking out for only yourself.
Okay, so there he is on service. Okay, here is a letter from his battalion commander and direct supervisor, Colonel John Kolb. Quote, feeling I need to say this. I do not regret that Tim Walz retired early from the Minnesota Army National Guard, did not complete the Sergeant's Major Academy, broke his enlistment contract, or did not successfully complete any assignment as a Sergeant Major. Unwittingly, he got out of the way for better leadership. Thomas Behrens was the right leader at the right time. He sacrificed to answer the call, leaving his family, business, and farming partner brother to train, lead, and care for soldiers. He earned the privilege of being called Command Sergeant Major. Like a great leader, he ran toward and not away from the guns. I have no opinion of Mr. Walz's decision to leave service at the time he did. It was his right to retire early. I also have no criticism of his service as an E7 and E8 in the MNA RNG. By all accounts, and on the record, he was a competent Chief of Firing Battery, Gunnery Sergeant, and First Sergeant. I cannot say the same of his service sitting frocked in the CSM chair. He did not earn the rank or successfully complete any assignment as an E9. It is an affront to the non-commissioned officer corps that he continues to glom onto the title. I can sit in the cockpit of an airplane. It does not make me a pilot. Similarly, when the demands of service and leadership at the highest level got real, he chose another path. Woo! So, there is that. So apparently he became the commander of the unit after Walz retired, apparently. So that is not exactly a good look for Tim Walz. Here was JD Vance over the weekend going at his vice presidential rival.
This is a guy who's been captured on video. As other people say, he's an Afghanistan veteran. He's a veteran of a war, nodding along in agreement instead of saying, no, I did serve my country and I did it honorably, but I never went to a war zone. I'm not criticizing Tim Walz's service. I'm criticizing the fact that he lied about his service for political gain, Dana. Now, I served in the United States Marine Corps, and you know this. And look, there are a lot of things that I'm proud about. I've never lied about what I did or overstated it because it would be beneficial to me in an election. I think that's what Tim Walz did. That's what I was criticizing. And yes, I do think it's scandalous behavior.
Okay, he is right. It is scandalous behavior. But don't worry, the media are there to protect. So here's CNN's Dana Bash getting very, very angry at JD Vance for bringing any of this up.
Donald Trump didn't serve in the military. He received a medical draft deferment for bone spurs to avoid serving in the Vietnam War, reportedly as a favor to his father. Do you find that shameful, too?
I think that Donald Trump didn't serve in the military, but he didn't lie about it, Dana. I've known Donald Trump for a long time. He really honors our veterans. He honors me for my service. Donald Trump didn't lie about serving in the military. He didn't say that he went to Vietnam when he didn't. This is the problem.
He is right, but Dana Bash why doesn't she just try out for press secretary over there? Seriously. I mean, she's just repeating Democratic talking points. The complex of the Democrats and the media is so unbelievably strong. We do, by the way, have a new argument in favor of Tim Walz. It's being trotted out by Minnesota Senator Tina Smith. Here is the argument that Tim Walz should be the vice president.
It was Governor Walz who asked our Attorney General, the amazing Keith Ellison, to step in and lead that prosecution. And that's what happened. And we had, if not justice, we had accountability for the murder of George Floyd. And that was, I think, an example of the leadership of Governor Walz.
Yes, that was when we got accountability for George Floyd, when you burned down the entire city of Minneapolis. Again, target-rich environment, no excuse for the Trump-Vance campaign not to take advantage. Now, the good news is, the bad news is Trump hasn't really been out on the campaign trail in swing states. He's doing some interviews, but he needs to get on his marks. He really needs to hit Kamala on her record. He needs to point out that she's a chameleon, that she's stealing his positions. He needs to be more meticulous than he has ever been in a campaign right now because the time grows short and there's not a lot of time for errors. JD Vance is doing a great job on the interview circuit. So over the weekend, he did 3 mainstream legacy media interviews, and he was just tearing up the anchors because the anchors don't know anything, and JD Vance does. So here is JD Vance slamming Tim Walz on his record with regard to transgenderism and children.
I mean, I heard Donald Trump give this speech in Montana he just gave, and he said that Tim Walz has signed a letter letting the state kidnap children to change their gender, that allowing pedophiles to claim, to be exempt from crimes. I mean, this is not true. It's not remotely true.
Well, what President Trump said, and I haven't watched the whole rally.
What he said was not true.
What President Trump said, John, is that Tim Walz has supported taking children from their parents if the parents don't consent to gender reassignment. That is crazy. And by the way, Tim Walz gets on his high horse about mind your own damn business. One way of minding your own damn business, John, is to not try to take my children away from me if I have different moral views than you.
The state to kidnap children to change their sexual identity.
What I just explained to you, I would describe as kidnapping, John. He has absolutely done this stuff. It's not crazy, John. Come on.
It's not what
you should not be able to take people's children away from them.
And that's not what he's proposed.
If you disagree with decisions about gender reassignment, yes, he has proposed that, John. He absolutely has.
Okay, that's JD Vance being honest, John Karl being dishonest. JD Vance is going to absolutely destroy Tim Walz in a debate. He also was, again, all the questions that were asked him were very aggressive questions by a media that is clearly in Kamala Harris's camp and desperately wants her to be president of the United States. So they started asking JD Vance about Nick Fuentes and the fact that Donald Trump had an ill-starred dinner with Nick Fuentes and Kanye West. He then dissociated from both of them, obviously. And here was JD Vance owning the reporter on this.
In your own movement, that's what I want to ask about, because one of the supremacists who was saying things like this about your family, Nick Fuentes, an avowed anti-Semite, went after your wife. He had previously dined at Mar-a-Lago with Donald Trump. Does this have any room in your movement, in the MAGA movement?
Of course it doesn't have any room in the MAGA movement. And of course,
you disavow him and this.
And of course, Donald Trump has criticized this person. Look, I think the guy's a total loser. Certainly I disavow him. But if you ask me what I care more about, is it a person attacking me personally, or is it government policy that discriminates based on race? That's what I really worry about.
He's right about all of that. And by the way, he also could have pointed out that Kamala Harris is openly flirting with people who are pro-Hamas. And that would have been true as well. And that the Democratic Party just clearly rejected the governor of Pennsylvania for the vice presidential slot because he's Jewish. Hey, Vance was then asked over and over and over again about the cat lady comments from Tucker Carlson's show 3 years ago. I love the fact that the media still continue to pretend that Tim Walz is not engaging in stolen valor. That's not a big story. They still continue to treat Kamala Harris as a legitimate candidate for president despite winning 0 primary votes ever in her entire history and then lying about every position. But he said a thing on Tucker Carlson 3 years ago. He's got to be asked about it over and over again. Here was JD Vance with Dana Bash.
Okay, you've now asked me 3 questions about comments that I made 3 years ago. I wonder what Kamala Harris thinks about the fact that she supported policies that open the American southern border. I wonder what Kamala Harris thinks about the fact that she lied to the American people about Joe Biden's middle facility for the office. You are interviewing me, Dana, because I respect the American people enough to sit down for an interview.
I appreciate that.
We should be talking about public policies that matter. How are we going to lower inflation? How are we going to reduce the cost of food and housing? How are we going to close down that southern border? We've talked so little about that. We've talked a lot more about a sarcastic remark I made 3 years ago. I think we should talk about the issues that most Americans care about.
He's right about that, of course. And the media, Dana Bash can't handle it because, of course, Dana Bash's entire job is to play defense for the Kamala Harris campaign. JD Vance did an excellent job on the Sunday shows. The media are trying to pretend he didn't. He did. He did a really good job on the Sunday shows. Trump needs to do a similarly good job on the campaign trail. He needs to be dropping tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars in ads on Kamala Harris in the swing states to label her while she lies about every single one of her positions, or this gigantic web of lies that is now being woven by Biden and Harris and the entire media is going to be able to support her all the way through a presidential election. All right, guys, coming up, we'll be joined by investigative reporter Gabe Kaminsky, who is reporting on some of the pro-Hamas people meeting with Kamala Harris. If you're not a member, become a member. Use code Shapiro. Check out for 2 months free on all annual plans. Click that link in the description and join us.
Republicans are Nazis. You cannot separate yourselves from the bad white people.
Growing up, I never thought much about race. It never really seemed to matter that much, at least not to me. Am I racist?
I would really appreciate it if you left.
I'm trying to learn. I'm on this journey. If I'm going to sort this out, I need to go deeper undercover.
They gonna say I'm racist.
Joining us now is Matt, certified DEI expert.
Here's my certification. And what you're doing is you're stretching out of your whiteness. This is more for you and less for you. Is America inherently racist?
The word inherent is challenging there.
I want to rename the George Washington Monument to the George Floyd Monument.
America is racist to its bones.
So inherently.
Yeah, this country is a piece of shit.
White
folks,
white
trash, white supremacy, white woman, white boy.
Is there a black person around? What's a black person right here? Does he not exist? Hi, Robin.
Hi, what's your name?
I'm Matt.
I just had to ask who you are because you have to be careful.
Never be too careful.
They gonna say you racist.
In theaters September 13th, rated PG-13.